And we're live.
Okay, awesome. Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 27 of Small Talks. And today again we are back on Friday from Saturday. So just to wish everyone a good sort of Friday and hope they had a great day at work. So today we have someone very interesting. I think this is the first person from growth side of things, if I'm not wrong. We have Pete.
We had Abhilasha, no?
She was from sales, right? So,
Huh, not like growth.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, coming back to the point, so Pete is currently heading growth at Sedu, which is currently, I think, Pine Labs organization. And I just wanted to sort of, give a second to talk about what small talk is. Small talk is like, talking to interesting people like Pete and discussing their journeys and, what can we learn as an audience from their learnings in that, journey that they had so far. So with that, I'm just gonna give it to Pete for a minute or two to just quickly give us a background about his work, about himself, and then yeah, we can get started. So yeah, over to you, Pete.
Thanks, Jay. Super excited to be here. So, as you folks know, my name is Pete Jason. I lead the growth and marketing mandate here at Setu, and I think the previous conversation just sums it up, right? Because growth is always perceived very differently by different people. In some companies, it's sales. Some companies, it's partnerships. Some companies, it's product. Other companies, it's marketing. But yeah, I like to call myself a business Swiss knife. I've had experience in both sales, marketing, and obviously growth as well. So that's how I would like to summarize myself.
Yeah, awesome. Krishna, you're on mute.
I think growth is just overexploited in the market these days. You really don't know what growth means anymore.
Yeah, I keep getting mocked at by a lot of my colleagues for this very same reason.
I hear them. Cool. So, Pete, with this, you and the audience know what comes next. We call it Jaldi Fi, where we're just going to ask you five simple questions. You get 30 seconds each to answer the question. Whatever comes to your mind first, let's, uh, use that. And once you're comfortable, let's begin. Let me know.
Perfect. Let's do this.
Cool. What's your one childhood dream which was closest to your heart?
Look, so I'm a huge sports fanatic. I always wanted to be, playing professionally, but very early on in my childhood, I realized that that was near impossible. And then I wanted to get into sports journalism. I did,
Hmm.
I did try a bunch of experiments during my
Hmm.
school and college times, but nothing really materialized. And now that's like a dream that I can't even recognize anymore.
Okay, not bad. But like when you say sports, any particular sports which you had in mind or how?
Yeah, I used to play a lot of basketball. I used to spend hours in the
Ah,
sun shooting hoops back in my
hmm.
hometown, Cochin. And yeah, I tried. I wanted to be a professional, basketball or an NBA player, but I realized early on that I'm not going to be very tall enough to compete with the big boys, in the US.
True. Fair enough. Now the next one is more towards retirement. Once you retire, do you want to retire in a city or like say a village where it's more serene, quiet?
Village any day. Like even when I leave Bangalore and I go back to my town Cochin, which is
Hmm.
still considered a city back in Kerala.
Hmm.
I'm just so at peace with the reduced noise, reduced now population.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
village any day.
Now, because you mentioned Kerala, I need to ask you this. Are you a like tall buildings person or are you like a independent house slash bungalow uh, kind of a person?
This is actually a tough question, which is a little weird because I always thought I'm a building person, but over the last couple of years, I've actually appreciated staying in standalone houses and just smaller bungalows in general.
Yeah, fair. Okay. Now, a Sunday evening would be Maggie or ramen.
Maggie, I hate ramen. Ramen is just tasteless Maggie. I don't know why people are making it a big deal.
Tasteless noodles.
Tasteless noodles, yeah.
Yes. No, but nowadays they have the spicier version. I can't eat it, but yeah, kudos to whosoever can.
So there's this very popular outlet called Eat Naru. I tried out their ramen, which was considered to
Hmm.
be one of the best, but I didn't really like
Hmm.
it. Maggie any day.
Yeah,
Cool. Now
I
the
think we are
last,
used to that taste also. Maybe that's why the Maggi ka
yeah,
taste is like from Bachpan, right?
yeah, childhood taste. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember, one of my friends' girlfriend, she used to love Maggie, and we'd actually made like a Maggie cake for her, like a three-tier Maggie cake when we were in college. Don't ask how it was tasting, but yeah, we'd done that. This leads us to the last question for the day. Uh, Chinos or jeans?
I'm sorry, I don't think I caught the question
Chinos?
right.
Would you wear a chino or would you wear a jeans if given an option?
I'm more of a jeans person. Uh,
Oh, okay.
I heard very early on that I can't pull off chinos, and somehow that's been scarred into my mind. So I never even try it right now. Jeans all the way.
Now is the time to go. We'll vote for chinos. You wear, you post a picture. All of us will go to voting.
Sure, let's do this.
Cool. So that's how we're ending Jaldi Fire. Thank you for being a sport, Pete. Jay, moving on to you. You wanna like open up with the first question for the day, like session wise.
Yeah, sure. So I think I'll just start with the sort of a little macro question. Since now you have also spent some time in the fintech space, right? And you have observed the space little closely than most of the folks, in terms of the regulation, how things are moving. So what's your sort of like, let's say 3 to 5 years view on Indian fintech, how it's gonna evolve now from here on? Like, what's your personal take on that?
Yeah, so I think the question itself is a little flawed because financial services are extremely complex, but they also depend on a lot of trust. So because of the high growth period we've had, over the last 3 to 5 years, we expect this trend to continue. But that
Mhm.
shouldn't be the case. Loans, credit cards, mutual funds, insurance, and any financial service for that matter should grow at a reasonable pace. Because
Mhm.
we've had this insane hockey stick growth over the last couple of years, we in fact expect and want this trend to continue, which in my opinion shouldn't be encouraged or pursued as well. Now,
Mhm.
financial services in general, now we've all heard that India is probably the largest, fintech space or the most hottest fintech market in the world. And that's by design, right? We are a country which is not very financially inclusive. So whenever a new fintech company, crops up and launches a new feature for the underserved segment, it easily laps up. Now there are still a lot of very interesting innovations happening. I think especially some of us at Setu, we've been doing a lot of interesting things with AI, and we think this can actually transform how financial services are tailored and delivered to each single user as well. And I think that's probably where we're going to see the next big innovations happening in the fintech space.
Right. So you
So
are
like
saying ki AI will become like a driver of the growth now moving forward in product innovation side?
Yeah, like more than driving growth, I think what it's going to do is that it's going to personalize financial services to the nth
Mhm.
level, right? So we always say this example back at Setu, right? All of us, we are the top 1% of India, and financial services today are designed for people like us. But what
Mhm.
about, let's say, a vegetable vendor whose earnings are in day wages? Why does she have to consume, or he or she have to consume a very similar financial product with same repayment cycle, same terms and conditions to somebody who's salaried like you and me? And that's
Mhm.
probably what we're going to see change with the world of AI coming into financial services.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty fair.
yeah. So just an extension to what you were just saying, Pete, right? Like we've seen such hyper growth in the past couple of years that our expectation of fintech has just become insanely, I say, unrealistic. So this kind of gets me to the question which I wanted to ask you. Like with the market being so tough, investments being so tight, how are like sales and growth guys managing their targets? Are there some new innovative tactics which they are trying to implement to kind of get better growth during such slow period, or like whatever you would want to call this period?
But Pete, I want to add one more layer to the question. Has the growth expectation also has changed in terms of the benchmark? For
Yeah.
example, what was in 22, right? Is
Hmm.
it the same expectation today or something has changed now?
So, look, I think companies and investors in general have realized that, look, financial services are not always going to grow at a staggering pace.
Hmm.
What we as maybe the starter ecosystem need to do is be okay with that, right? We are not selling candy, or we are not selling something for a quick
Hmm.
buck. This is
Hmm.
financial services we're talking about. Financial services
Hmm.
is a game of trust.
Yeah.
Now, to answer the first part of your question, Krishna,
Hmm.
honestly, there's nothing innovative. It's us going back to basics.
Hmm.
Since financial services is a game of trust, you need to
Hmm.
build high trust with your
Hmm.
buyers.
Hmm. Hmm.
So all the
Yeah.
great salespeople I know are great relationship managers. They can call up their client and
Very
have a
true.
chat about literally anything
Hmm.
in the world.
Hmm.
And that's what I think is happening more and more as well.
Hmm.
The days of hyper growth, periods are over, and that's fine.
Right. So overall, the market also has understood, right, in terms of the investors and operators also. What we saw was sort of an anomaly, right? And it's not like the usual trend that will maybe just keep going up and up. There might be a sort of a slope that might also be as expected. Is that, are we like sort of establishing right now, or
Yeah.
in terms?
So in a way, we've kind of had the first layer of growth in the fintech
Hmm.
space, and
Yeah.
right now it's kind of plateaued. Now that being said, look at the macro picture. India is still credit hungry. Majority of people don't have access to credit, to insurance, to investments, so on and so forth as well. So
Hmm.
any company or any founder looking to build in the financial services slash fintech space must be looking at it from a 20 to 30-year mission. This is
Hmm.
not
Yeah.
a business where you can
Yeah.
get in, make a quick buck, and exit, right? These
Yeah.
are long-term relationships that you're essentially trying to capture and break.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like I spoke to quite a few leaders in this space, and I think all of y'all echo to this particular line, right? That this is not short term, this is long haul game. You have to think like in decades when you're thinking for financial service. You can't think short term like a year or so, right? So I
Yeah.
think this can be like a critical lesson for a lot of first time fintech founders, that they also have to think in decades and not in like a year or 2 years or so, and even for people who are working in fintech, from the same logic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the phrases that our founder Sahil used to say a lot
Hmm.
is that when you build a financial services company or a fintech company, you have to
Hmm.
think of a way where you can be systematically important to the way finances are managed. And it's only then you'll be able to make a great business out of it. You can't
Hmm.
just launch a new flashy metal credit card, catering to the younger segment,
Hmm.
aim to make a couple of bucks and leave over the next
Hmm.
few years. That's not
Hmm.
going to happen.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Preet, I want to
So
go back to your first point. Sorry, Trista. You want to
sure, sure.
go first?
कर ले.
No, no, I was just thinking right in back of my head ki yaar, first point which you make, right, ki there is a AI that will like make financial services more personalized. So maybe can you highlight like current top 2 3 challenges in the fintech space from a user lens that they are like sort of facing, might be from a B2B or a B2C lens.
Yeah, so one of the main problems was the cost of delivering financial services. Now, with the India Stack project, which was Aadhaar, UPI, and now account aggregator, the cost of delivering financial services has significantly reduced.
Hmm.
Somebody who was probably spending about 500 to 1,000 bucks to disburse a loan to a customer today can do that in under 100 bucks, maybe even lesser in certain cases
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
short-term bullet loans.
Mm-hmm.
Um, could you just repeat the question again, Jay? I just lost
Yeah,
my
yeah.
train of.
Sure, sure. I was asking, can you give us like 2 3 major challenges in terms of the user side, right? Like what are the challenges user are facing? So one
Yeah.
you said personalized finance is a one way to solve this, but apart from that, like what are some major challenges that you can think of, or you have seen personally?
Yeah, so I think personalization itself is, a large topic to talk about right now. Now, personalization can be broken down into multiple sub segments that you can solve for. One is in the financial service itself, in terms of repayment cycles, cost of accessing a financial service, and literacy. There could
Mhm.
also be factors around vernacular, support. In
Yeah.
fact, I've got a lot of stories. So when I do user research calls to end B2C users, couple of stories that we've heard was this person has walked into a bank to apply for a loan, but this security standing outside the bank has seen him and he felt that this person is not eligible for a loan, so he not even let him enter the bank. Now,
Okay.
this is one of the reasons why fintech is growing so well, because it cuts across all of these, very stupid notions like, color, dressing, caste, creed, whatever the hell, case may be. Now, the challenge is, how do you deliver these financial services at an extremely personalized level to
Mm-hmm.
each and every single user, right? Somebody who's getting daily payments or weekly payments, they ideally shouldn't have to, let's say, do a monthly SIP payment because or a monthly EMI payment, because their cycles itself don't match. And that's probably where the next, wave of, innovation needs to happen. And there are a lot of companies who are doing very interesting and very innovative things in this space to make sure financial services can be personalized and delivered to any single individual who wants to consume them.
Right. Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, Krishna.
So, like, I had a different question from what we were just discussing, but what is happening in today's time is that a lot of people are feeling that their job is becoming monotonous, right? And a lot of us are now kind of in that boat where, we maybe want to switch to a different sector. You may see a lot of people actually do MBAs just to switch their roles, right? So my question to you is, say if somebody is planning to do something like this and kind of wants to move into growth or wants to move into sales or marketing, what do you suggest to them? That are there certain skill sets which are like a must have for this profile, and how can they kind of upskill themselves for those skill sets?
Yeah, I think the answer is basically to be a voracious reader and just try to catch up with everything that's happening in this space. I remember when I was just finishing college and
Hmm,
entering my first job. Yes, it was competitive, but not to this level of competition that we see today.
hmm, hmm,
Freshers are expected to literally know each and everything about the industry they're going to join.
hmm,
They're expected to know how different functions like sales, marketing, operations,
hmm,
finance,
hmm.
product, or any function works as well.
Yeah.
So it's a very chaotic time. I actually empathize with a lot of young folks who are just breaking into their first roles right now. But yeah,
Hmm,
I think the advice has always been timeless. Keep your eyes and ears open.
hmm,
Keep reading and absorbing as much as you can, and keep doing a
hmm,
lot of things that are even outside your work. Be a part of
hmm,
communities. There are a lot of
hmm,
meaningful communities out there that add a lot of value for young folks, and that's what you should be delivering. Secondly, instead of trying to be an expert in everything in this dynamic world where literally things are changing, every
hmm,
couple of years,
hmm,
try to know something in almost every field, and then you
Hmm.
try to figure out which ones you want to be experts in.
yeah.
I've spoken to so many young people who've decided from age of 19 or age of 20 that I am only going to be a product manager for the rest of
Hmm,
my life. I'm going to be in product. Sure,
hmm.
while that may serve you for the next couple of years, maybe even a decade or so, things are
Hmm.
going to rapidly change. So try to dip your hands and legs into everything and learn as much as you can is my only advice.
Yeah.
So this is for freshers, right? Say if somebody with experience wants to laterally move, or like what you would call a IGP in a company to a different role, what would your suggestion be for those people?
And again, you can maybe share about your experience because you have done a transition, right, from like a different, let's say, part of sales to like growth. So how was your journey?
Yeah, so when I joined Razorpay in early 2018, I was part of this team called the growth team.
Hmm,
Now,
Okay.
unlike my role at Setu, the growth team at Razorpay was a pure sales role.
hmm,
But however, it had a very different tag to it. We were basically focusing on increasing Razorpay's footprints in certain
hmm,
industries. So industry
hmm,
penetration was the larger goal
hmm,
that we were chasing.
hmm,
So
hmm, hmm,
industries like digital lending, e-commerce, travel, and
hmm,
gaming were fairly newer,
hmm,
industries or digital industries that were coming up in India. And
hmm,
while Razorpay had some great presence in, let's say, education and maybe a bit of e-commerce, they wanted to go deeper into these industries where
hmm,
the payment workflow is a lot more complex.
hmm,
So yeah, so I'm part of the team that did that. Now, while doing a bit of sales itself, I believe I had a very marketing approach to doing sales. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of just say,
okay.
reaching out to each person on LinkedIn or maybe just cold
Hmm,
calling them, I used to
hmm,
drop them a very quirky email campaign.
Uh,
Based on this email campaign, I got a bunch of leads. I started, calling these leads, closing them, and I did a little bit of marketing while doing sales, at Razorpay as well. But I think that's the formula that has worked for me, right? Even in your current role, try to see how you can sprinkle elements of other functions without totally relying on them. It's always good to have them as people who you can soundboard with, people who can mentor you, but always try to do a little bit of other functions work in your core work as well, so that your broadness in how you think about the role itself is just so diverse.
Yeah, fair. Now
Yeah,
with this, just because we're discussing roles, I just have one more, Jay. I'll just can take that and then you can ask the next one. So like when you're hiring for like say a growth slash sales slash marketing kind of a role, what is that one skill set which is like a must have in a candidate?
I think it's the ability to think on your feet, because look, and with ChatGPT, and just because of
Hmm.
how easy it is to get real good content out there,
Hmm.
people can come super prepared for their interviews if they know exactly what they should say, exactly
Hmm.
what people are going
Hmm.
to ask, etc.
Hmm.
So I always try to throw a bouncer, ask something that is completely unexpected, completely unrelated to the role, etc. And I try to see how they respond to that. And some of the really great candidates says, dude, I don't know anything about this, but if you give me 5 minutes, I can Google and give you my version of what
Hmm.
I think about this as well.
Hmm.
And that's also a very hard skill that probably does not get talked about, your ability to find things on the internet that make
Hmm.
sense and channelize it in your
Hmm.
own role. So I
Hmm.
always give a lot of exercises where I tell them, hey, can you share your screen? And I
Hmm.
give them certain tasks that I see them doing, and just
Hmm.
by observing them, I get a sense of whether this person is great for the job or not.
Hmm. Got it.
right. But I think that's a different approach also, because generally the challenge with hiring is that most of the companies, again, it's again very subjective when I say most, but companies have a certain playbooks, right, that they follow. And now I genuinely feel with this changing time, the playbooks have to be sort of changed. At least hiring wise, you cannot go like general approach that one size fit will that will work with everyone, because people have like evolved and even the systems have also evolved, right? So as Pete said, ki, everyone now knows ki how to answer, why did you leave your last
Yeah.
job? And
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you observe, very closely, you will find out of 10 people, five are saying the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So that is also a big challenge that is coming up. But again, I'll just go back to the part of the user side, right? Because I'm sort of interested in that side of things, especially in the fintech space, right? The what kind of insight that you were, you didn't expect, कि ऐसा होता है, but then you sort of, looked at data in terms of the services or like, any specific financial product you want to call out, right? That you had a different sort of hypothesis and the outcome was fairly different for that. If you can maybe talk about certain case that you have encountered in your experience.
So one of the things that I've not personally experienced that, but something I've observed and I see that happening play out in, the Indian fintech scene, is that if you are going to be managing people's money, your brand cannot be arrogant. You have to be as humble and down to earth as you can. I know cred is probably like the only aberration to this, but even then they kind of place themselves not in an arrogant sort of a
Hmm.
brand perception, but in a different stratosphere altogether as well. I remember seeing this post that one of the very young fintech apps had put out on their social media profile, just calling out another user, giving them a bad review, saying that, hey, you didn't read our blog, you should understand why this was a bug, not a feature. And the entire Twitter community came behind him with pitchforks. While there was a lot of just blind hate and just senseless hate and all of that, one of the things that really stood out to me was, dude, you're managing someone's finances or their money. You have to be humble, you have to be respectful, and that's the only way people are going to look up to you, because India is a country where money is sacred, and the lack of money is considered to be extremely bad in a perception sort of a way. So nobody ever tells that, hey, I don't have money, rather than other markets which are probably fueled on credit. So that's probably like one of my most interesting learnings, that hey, if you're working in the financial services place, always be humble. Ensure your copy, your marketing, and the general tone of your brand always seems humble and down to earth.
Hmm. I think the only way I can think of this is key. It's a case with a lot of consumer brands because what is happening, looking at a certain brand persona, we think that if they can pull off, we can pull off too. Maybe that's a very slippery slope because there
Yeah,
is a very long history to certain brands, right? Why those brands are the way they are.
yeah,
And again, a lot of brands are also founder led, right? Even Dipinder is fairly active now on all the platforms. Kunal is very active on platforms. So the
yeah,
kind of persona it has built, it also resonates with the brand to a larger extent. But it might not be applicable. I think that's why we always keep saying, right? Context is the only thing that can differentiate, like brand to brand. Because maybe something has worked for a competition might not work for you because
yeah,
they have a different dynamics altogether. But yeah,
absolutely.
I'll just go back to your very first point, right? So I think one question that I think everyone has sort of faced, right? Growth, marketing, sales. I mean, we can give all the terminology in the world, right? Like different. I don't know if you remember, there was a time of growth hackers. Like everybody was looking for a growth hacker. But if
Yeah.
you are to summarize, let's say, what are the two or three top, like again for a startup, let's say in fintech space only, what are the two three criteria or like basic thing that growth person has to do for his company, or like what are your area of like work in general.
Yeah, so I fundamentally believe that whether you're a B2B or a B2C fintech company, there are four large metrics that you'll have to chase in the world of fintech and in the world of growth. One
Hmm.
is acquisition, the number of users or businesses you onboard.
Hmm.
Two is revenue. Obviously, every company has to do this. Third is industry penetration. And the fourth is a metric called product per client.
Hmm.
Um, Industry penetration. Now, look, we've all heard of the Pareto principle, the
Hmm.
80-20 logic.
Yeah.
While this is applicable to almost everything you see happening around you, this is more so applicable in the financial services space as well. Just
Hmm.
look at how many loans are disbursed in India, how many demat accounts are being opened, or how many insurance are being sold. You'll notice that the top 20% of the players does 80% of the overall volumes as well. So
Hmm.
tracking industry penetration, making sure you crack the right 20% in the entire overall funnel is also an important metric that I think is largely underrated today. And the
Hmm.
fourth point that I mentioned was something called product per client. This is a metric that we, tried focusing on Razorpay, even during the early days as well. Now, financial services are known to have brutally thin margins.
Yeah.
There are so many stakeholders involved. Everybody gets a small cut, and the final revenue or the profit you get is probably going to be in a couple of paisa for each interaction that happens. So ensuring that you are able to, one, sell more products to the same set of cohorts increases the product per client, which naturally increases the stickiness of your product as well. Because unlike a e-commerce company, financial services are a game of trust, like I mentioned earlier. So it's very unlikely that you're going to change your bank, within a couple of months, or you're going to change your investment app or any other financial service that you cater to. So while yes, it is important to acquire your customers, it's also important to go deeper within the customer as well. And that's where tracking a metric called product per client becomes brutally important.
Right. Is it something similar to what a customer success role would look like? Is it around product per
Yes,
client?
yes. A key account management or a customer success role, would be one of the teams that actively focuses on this.
Right. And you said
Now,
it's
because
applicable.
carry
Sorry.
on. Hmm. Maybe carry on. I'll double
No, I
tap.
was just saying it's applicable to B2C and B2B both. That's my assumption because ultimately money is money and it doesn't matter it's a B2C or B2B. But the more features or more products I use of a single app, it
Yeah.
also sort of inculcate that habit, right? That's why all the fintechs are going behind everything. They will
Yeah,
build
like,
everything.
you can even pick up like two fintech apps like a Paytm and a PhonePe. And if you literally make a list of all of the features that Paytm has and PhonePe has, you will find a 70-75% overlap. There is UPI payments, there is bill payments, there is
Hmm.
insurance, there is loans, there is a whole bunch of things that are
Yeah,
eerily similar. That's probably because financial services has wafer thin margins. So in
yeah,
order for you to actually make meaningful money,
yeah,
you need to sell a whole bunch of
yeah,
products to the same customer.
yeah. But Pete, I feel that this logic is applicable to any consumer tech in this place. Like, to be honest with you, like if you see Zomato as well, right? As far as it was just a food aggregator, it was not actually making that much money. They've also kind of expanded their segment. Like if you see Kareem's in Dubai, it's again a very good example, right? Kareem's like has food delivery. They also have taxi service available. They also had quick delivery available back then, right? So I think
Yeah.
all of them are now trying to see multifacets of businesses which can get revenue or which are parallel to what they are currently doing. So I think everybody is going to that same path, and I feel that is what is going to help them make more money in the long term, adding similar product types to their current product extension.
No, no, absolutely, absolutely. I wasn't saying this is very exclusive to fintech,
Hmm.
but I think the importance of this in fintech is also largely higher.
Yeah,
Because look,
because
the
of the
margins.
margins.
Yeah, because look, if I transfer 100 rupees to you
Hmm.
via PhonePe,
Hmm.
PhonePe is not going to make any money. Now they've
Yes.
acquired the customer, they retain the customer, but they're
Hmm.
still not going to make any money.
Yeah.
Which other business, like
Hmm.
I cannot order something from Swiggy and Swiggy does not make anything, right? Unless
Hmm.
they are consciously bleeding. So which is why I think while this obviously cuts across multiple industries, I think
Hmm.
it is a little bit more prominent in the
Hmm.
fintech space.
Hmm.
Right.
So there is this debate which is going on in the market, right? Where now, payment aggregators are asking the government slash RBI to give them some kind of, what do you say, commission on the UPI payments happening. Do
Yeah.
you think it's a viable action? Do you not feel that they lose a lot of customers to it? Because see, UPI is practically replacing we giving cash to the shopkeeper, right? And say if I were to even give like a 0.1% of that every time I pay, would I not rather go back to cash
Cash.
than paying that 0.1? Because see, as you said, we are like the top 1 percentile, and then remaining is people who really don't have that much of exposure or comfort when you do something like this. What are your thoughts on this?
So this is a controversial topic, right? Without making it, political at all, let me
Hmm.
try to, address this. So, like every debate, there are two sides of
Hmm.
this.
Hmm.
The sides that banks and payment companies are saying
Hmm.
that is also fair, which is,
Hmm.
hey, we spend a lot of money in
Hmm.
maintaining UPI infrastructure,
Hmm.
delivering it to merchants
Hmm.
or customers, onboarding them, servicing them,
Hmm.
etc.
Hmm.
If
Hmm.
you are, if the government is no, or the finance ministry rather, is not going to let me make meaningful money out of this, then there is
Hmm.
no incentive for me to improve this because this
Hmm.
is a cost
Hmm.
center today, right?
Yeah.
Which is very fair in the world of capitalism. This is always given
Hmm.
prominence. Now,
Hmm.
look at what RBI and the finance ministry is saying is that making a payment from for a person A to person B is
Hmm.
kind of like a basic right.
Yeah.
We've let a lot of banks, a lot of private companies build the financial technology space for the
Hmm.
longest period of time. But
Hmm.
however, penetration in rural areas or among the lower segment group was always fairly low.
Hmm.
So, which is the reason why they built digital public infrastructure like Aadhaar, like UPI, and like account aggregator to make
Hmm.
financial services itself very cheap as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, if and look, the goal of an RBI or the goal of a finance ministry is not to make a couple of companies succeed, right? Or
Hmm.
to make the fintech ecosystem in India as a thriving one.
Yeah.
Although that is something that they're actively advocating for.
Hmm.
Their
Hmm.
goal is to make sure each and every citizen is under the financial walls of India, whether it's an insurance, an investments, a loan, or whatever
Hmm.
the case may be.
Hmm.
I think because people have accepted UPI as a free payment mechanism, it will
Yes.
be very hard for them to
Yes.
pay any money out of it. So now, who
Yeah.
bears the cost?
Yeah.
Uh, the finance ministry pays a couple of 100 crores per year to all of these banks to maintain UPI infrastructure.
Hmm.
Now, is this
Hmm.
going to remain for the next 20, 30 years?
Hmm.
It's a very small portion in the overall budget, but the success of UPI is also like one of the largest shining stars in the
Yeah.
current government's reign as well. So
Yeah.
while they're going to ensure this maintains for the longest period of time,
Hmm.
I think the market itself will tell. Maybe it's not going to be on a per transaction basis like you mentioned with your
Hmm.
example.
Hmm.
Maybe it's going to be like a subscription sort of a model where you not just get access to UPI, you get access to a whole bunch of other services
Hmm.
under the bouquet.
Hmm.
Or maybe they're going to say you can have the free UPI package with, let's say, 100 payments in a year, and in case you
Hmm.
want slightly bit
Uh,
more higher, you then pay a
uh,
smaller fee as well.
okay.
And Geo has given us this playbook that this can be done at scale. So
Mm.
yeah, interesting times to come, especially in the next couple of years for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
If you guys remember, there was this ATM card thing, right? So ATM
I
card
also
was,
remember that immediately when you said that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
But then
the
now
moment
that
you
you
have,
see it, now that you see it, most of them have ruled that out. 5 swipes or whatever, like 10 swipes. I had seen 5 swipes while I was growing up. That if
Mhm.
you're swiping a ATM outside your bank's ecosystem, like say if you're a PNB customer and you're going and swiping it at a BOB, you could only do it 5 times.
Hmm.
But that got waived off, no, eventually.
Yeah, that got waived off eventually.
Yeah,
But I think
because
this is an interesting point. Maybe I want to add one question to both of you, right? So we were talking about the additional fees, right, to whatever the
yeah,
behavior we have.
yeah,
So if you guys know, Zomato and Swiggy have also increased the platform fee now. Now
yeah,
it's 5 rupees. But
yeah,
people are
Yeah.
still like, still on the platform. Haven't seen like a massive dip. Do
yeah.
you think this something similar can work out in this space
But see,
also?
they took a hit for a very long time, right, Jay, just to add to it, and then the user has just kind of got accustomed to it for a very long time.
But I don't know if we can like be without UPI anymore. That's also a reality now.
No, tell me something like for the major audience like Pete and Jay, like my counter question to you, right? It was so difficult for us to get our senior people move from cash to UPI. You really think they are not going to go to the ATM and just kind of get cash again and start doing this as soon as they know there are charges to this?
I mean, yeah,
I'm just
that's a
speaking
very
about the
possible
Indian
outcome.
audience, right? I'm just being like a typical Indian and talking here on behalf of fellow Indians, right? Why would I not want to do this?
No, it's a very possible outcome. In fact, one very funny thing that's happening is that, did you guys know that NPCI is also going to launch UPI ATMs where you don't need a
Yes,
card, you can go to an ATM and so look,
yes,
ATMs and cash are not going away. They're going to
Hmm.
remain for a long period
yeah,
of time. Now, the share in which the volumes happen is basically what's going to move here and there.
yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
But I
No, but
had one more question now because you only intrigued me on this, and fintech, of course, is an area of interest because we've also been into the fintech domain for some time.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that NPCI is coming up with their own UPI, right? Like the entire UPI journey. How will this impact the other fintechs? Is what I was very curious about.
Uh, when you mean NPC is coming out with the new UPI journey, what exactly are you referring
Like
to?
when you're saying right that they're going to have ATMs where you can just kind of withdraw your cash via the UPI number.
Yeah.
Then what about other players who are already doing this?
Yeah, so look, I think we always look at markets as a zero sum game, especially when regulators or quasi regulators like NPCI are
Hmm.
involved.
Hmm.
But like when UPI was conceptualized and launched, it
Hmm.
wasn't to kill the cards business.
Hmm.
It literally was to make the entire pie of digital payments in India much more larger. And I think
Hmm.
that's what NPCI is trying to do with a lot of their initiatives, especially UPI 2.0, UPI
Hmm.
mandates, UPI, ATMs as well. Now, and this is probably like a more controversial topic for a lot of fintech founders, but NPCI sets the standards and they invite any fintech to come and over exceed their standards, but because
Hmm.
NPC standards today are already so super high,
Hmm.
the value that maybe a private fintech company can add today looks a little bleak. I'm sure over a period of
Yeah.
few years, few decades, this is going to increase.
Yeah.
But we keep making this joke internally that the most innovative fintech company is not Cred or Razorpay. It's NPCI.
But I also believe in that, But I also feel they have, like, without being controversial, they have more resources at par than any of us.
I think more than resources, I think it's the regulatory advantage that they have,
Yeah,
right?
I meant that only.
Nobody,
Like when I said
yeah,
resources, that is what I meant.
yeah, nobody else is allowed to define standards for a
Yeah.
payment, instrument like UPI,
Yeah.
or try out something like UPI on
Yeah.
credit cards.
Yeah, but
So
end of
yeah,
the day,
I
it's
do
also a
agree.
government entity, right? So government gets more access to experimenting, and if that goes well, I'm sure then they open it up to other organizations who can also adapt this, like you
Yeah,
said.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, one question that I was just thinking, like, I think we are at all time. I think last year also, it's been a year or so since we have been like, our credit card consumption has been increasing, right? Overall credit in the
Hmm.
ecosystem of India. So, personally, Pete, what do you think? Like, where is this heading to, like, the credit consumption? But again, on the income level, we are almost not increasing that fast. So,
Yeah.
where do you think this is going towards?
Yeah, this is actually a entire episode of its own if we have time. But what is happening is that the new to credit customers aren't able to, let's say, access the quality of loans that they want today.
Okay.
And this is not just to do with the disposable income per se, while largely it is attributed to that. It
Mhm.
also has to do. um I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Could you please repeat the last line again, Jay?
Yeah, yeah. So you were saying about जो consumption का ये है,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
तुमको का ये consumable income is not the one.
yeah.
It's beyond disposable income also. So,
So today, when a lender underwrites a customer for a loan, the way
mhm,
they underwrite is quite linear. Firstly, most lenders do a bureau check, which is to figure out whether you have any existing credit, outstanding credit, so on and so forth. And then they
mhm,
basically go through your digital footprint to figure out whether you're eligible for a loan or not. Now, this, in my opinion, is a very flawed system. Like, take the
mhm,
example of that vegetable vendor who gets, weekly payments or daily payments per se. She's not going to have any of these things. She gets paid largely in cash. So even if you collect her bank statement, she's not going to have a lot of transactions per se. So
mhm,
I actually feel that the way underwriting happens in India today is going to change. And I think a lot of companies like maybe a Paytm or even a Cred is actually doing a lot of interesting work around that. Today, instead of just relying on past credit behavior and current financial transactions, there is a whole bunch of uh, there's a whole bunch of other indicators you can essentially adopt. Let's say
okay.
somebody has been paying his bill every month diligently for the last 10 years. Isn't this a very interesting metric for you to decide whether this person has good behavior? Or what if there is a person who's been recharging his FASTag very diligently, over the last couple of years? Can this be used in some shape or form? So I actually feel that a lot of alternate underwriting models is set to develop in India, and that's probably where we are actually going to see credit not just being given to people who can afford it today, but the NTC segment growing higher and higher as well. And you also have to empathize on these lenders because today they are dealing with a lot of high NPAs, and collection problems. So there is, enough meat on both sides, and I think only time will tell on how this problem essentially evolves.
Yeah. So one thing I heard from one of my friend who used to use, I mean, he works in a sort of a fintech company, but it's not even a fintech. It's a very large player. Um, but so they have a banking partnership, right? So one very tricky observation that they saw that, when they do like, give out credit cards to a certain pin code, the default rate is always higher versus a
Yeah,
certain pin code, right?
yeah.
So they have to actually block out certain pin codes कि भाई
Hmm.
कुछ भी करो वहां पे no matter what, just let's just not get into that area for now
Yeah,
because they
this
yeah.
Yeah, this logic kind of cuts across e-commerce as well because I remember speaking to an e-commerce founder, long back, and he was like,
Hmm.
"Hey, if certain pin codes are considered risky, I am not going to give them a cash-on delivery facility. They have to pay online or pay
Hmm.
Yeah.
digitally when I come." So I think this cuts across multiple industries, but I'm not sure. I still haven't made up my mind on whether this is a good technique or not, or is it a flawed technique to just evaluate people based on where they stay or what their pin code is at, right?
Hmm. But I don't know, peak make can also be like a overall, let's say, reflection on like let's say your overall income, right? मतलब कहीं ना कहीं पिन कोड in a way decide कि what kind of income you might be in. Again, it's not an absolute metric, but it can be a indicative metric for sure, I think. Again, but
Yeah,
I think
for sure. Yeah, I do agree because look, it's without data, these e-commerce companies or lending company will not make any drastic action, right? Them delivering a product even via COD or you disbursing a loan as a lender, these are all paths for them to make money. So anything that crosses friction in this, they obviously will evaluate 10 times. So maybe data is showing them that accessing pin codes and pin code performance in a certain sense is a good indicator for them to follow. So yeah, I completely agree with you on that.
hmm. I just have two more questions. One is on again a follow up to your last point, which you said on the underwriting, right? Across the world, are there any interesting models or like any interesting sort of variables that banks or companies have looked at? Maybe we should also ideally look at those maybe indications, especially for like underwriting a loan services. So, is there anyone in the world who has done this very differently right now that you are aware of?
Yeah, so I'm not too well versed with this topic, so this is obviously like a little bit of shaky territory for me. But I think we can take a lot of learnings from social impact lenders,
Okay.
like Kiva and whole bunch of companies that operate in this space as well. I did not want to give the microfinance space in India the example because they're doing terrible right now, and their
So,
playbook is
did
probably
you
what.
heard of Rangde? Like, I think they are also kind of doing something similar, right?
Yeah,
Correct?
yeah, very
Run.
similar space.
Yeah.
Got it. Right. And lastly, are you like, so yeah, again, what's your take on the digital currency, let's say the crypto specifically, right? So are you on the crypto side? Are you not on the crypto side, or you're at neutral right now? Because again, it is a very big factor of the economy that is shaping up. So yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think I'm neutral, right? I have points where I'm pro crypto and I have points which I'm anti crypto as well. And I know this is probably like the most diplomatic answer for you as well, but I think what the government has done, it has killed crypto without killing crypto,
Got
right?
it.
And this is probably like I heard this from a lot of groups and conversations I've been a part of. First, they told all banks and all payment companies to stay away from crypto merchants, and two, they levied a very a chunky 30% tax on this as well. So firstly, that's the macro scenario. Now there are so many applications for crypto that I don't think we are seeing today. Especially in decentralized finance and a whole bunch of aspects as well. Do I believe in this pump and dump race that's going on in the crypto world right now? Absolutely not, right? I think there is a lot of fraudulent players. In fact, there are
Hmm.
more fraudulent players than
Yeah.
serious players, in my
Yeah.
opinion. And this
Yeah.
always happens whenever there is a large pool of money involved.
Yeah.
And this is probably like seeping into AI right now, but that's for a whole different other day. So look, I think there are still great applications of of blockchain that we still haven't seen, especially like somebody building a digital ledger for all assets. So there is still a lot of room for it to grow, but I think people should also stay away from a lot of the meme coins, a lot of these trendy, flashy, hot topic stuff that's that a lot of the youngsters kind of adopt to today.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing with, if you don't understand it, you should not invest. I think someone told me like long back, you should only understand and then invest in the asset
Yeah.
which you want to pick up.
Yeah,
So
like even if you look at it from a very rudimentary perspective, right? So when you, let's say, buy invest in mutual funds or buy a stock or buy a crypto, what are basic things that you go? You'll see whether they have strong financials. A whole bunch of other metrics are there. You'll see whether they have a strong team. You'll see their market share in the overall space, and a whole bunch of inexcusable, calculatable things.
hmm.
I have a lot of friends who invest, several lakhs and several crores in crypto, and
Hmm.
the way they evaluate companies and decisions to buy or sell a certain crypto coin is purely on, firstly, what are they trying to do? It's going to be a very high level, basic, high level thing that's not operational at all, and two, who the founders are. If the founders have strong pedigree, I'm going to invest so many lakhs into it, which is crazy to think of, right? Like imagine buying a stock just because they changed their leadership, or
Yeah.
just like, I'm sure those are obviously indicators for you to make a decision,
Hmm.
but that
Yeah.
can't be the sole factor for you
True.
folks to operate on.
Yeah.
Hmm. No, I think that's very interesting, and I think just being sort of aware of what you're getting into, that's the very important part, especially
Yeah.
right now, because industry is in a very nascent stage right now. Even though there is a lot of like things going on, but still
Yeah.
people just have no idea what's going on. It's like a
Yeah,
very
with all,
gray
yeah, with all this said and done, like, I've still invested about 5-6% of my portfolio in crypto because, hey, I'm greedy
Yeah.
as the next person after me, so why
Yeah.
not?
So, my take on this is like fintech also took time to kind of get established into the market, right? It took a decade or more, in fact, for people to adapt that. I think you just need to give crypto time. Weeding will happen, right? The bad players which are there eventually will be weeded out. And I think in slow time, people will start exploring crypto as an investment option as well. It's just wait game in this case.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, fair point.
And I love
Just
the fact, like, I think we spoke a lot on the fundamentals part, right? I think we were not trying to go on the trends versus just being, staying on a very basic fundamental things. I think I just want to add last question, Pete, because I love the way, you sort of just stick to the fundamentals, right? Mostly. So maybe are there any two, three principles personally that you followed, as a career growth mental model, which you want to just share with people? Like, maybe there are just two, three principles that has worked for you as an individual to grow professionally, because you have seen like a fairly great, journey in a very short span. So if you have to say, like, what are those two, three traits that you think have worked for you?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's a framework per se, but naturally I'm a very pessimistic person. So whenever I take on a new project, the first thought that goes to my mind is what can go wrong? Then I start to list down all the things that could go wrong and do whatever in my power to ensure that doesn't happen.
ah,
Once I start to cross out, I think this framework is called
Yeah, yeah,
inversion.
inversion or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
Warren
I
Buffett,
read
I
about
think.
it years later, but then I'm like, oh, I've been doing this, and my teachers have been giving me a very bad time because I always used to think of myself as a pessimistic person per se. And especially in workplaces, one of the things that I try to follow as much as I can is to always keep your word, in the workplace. If you tell somebody you're going to get back to, them with that, try to always do that. If you can't, drop the message explaining why you can't do it and when you're going to
hmm,
get the thing done. And I think that, is always added value. I feel a little embarrassed saying this because I know there'll be a lot of people who are watching this who say, "Hey, Pete, but you didn't do that thing that you mentioned." So I hope I can keep a large asterisk over there as well.
conditions
No,
applied, guys.
Conditions apply,
Yeah.
exactly.
no, but this was super fun, man. I think there were like quite a few pointers which I would probably go and study more on that. But yeah, this was fun for sure.
Pete, I just had one last question for you. As usual, we've
There
overrun our
has been
time.
two last questions so far.
Yeah, but the thing is, Jay does not finish with his last questions, right? And I like let him do it. So this one is more generic towards the stress which is kind of created due to the imbalance in the startup industry at this point in time because of the funding winter. How do
Yeah.
you personally manage stress at this point in time?
Yeah, so I think the two extreme schools of thought is bad, right? There
Hmm.
is the hustle bro culture on one end, and
Hmm.
on the other end, it is that quit your job, go to Goa, and start earning money from there. I think
Huh.
you need both, right? There
Hmm.
there are periods where you need to work like a madman in order to
Hmm.
achieve certain results, and there
Hmm.
are periods where you need to let loose, spend time
Hmm.
with friends, family, do things
Hmm.
outside work, just so that you have
Hmm.
different perspectives on things
Hmm.
as well. So I
Hmm.
always try to balance a bit of both. I'm not a hustle bro, nor am I completely like, hey, let's go live in the mountains and
Hmm.
you'll be happy per se. So I do travel from time to time. I play a lot of sports. Even today I shoot some hoops. I spend a lot of time with my family and with my brother and my fiance as well. So that's been going great.
Good to
Awesome.
know because like a lot of time when we ask people this question, they're so busy hustling that we've just, I think, forgotten the essence of life. That why are we doing this, right? So that you could have a life. Where is the life? Is my question to major people today. Like, I think we're just missing the essence out of why work was created.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah.
Pete, I
I
think
also
it's been a. Sorry, you were
oh, I
saying
mean,
something?
one last point now.
Hmm.
I know a lot of people who are very proud of the work that they do. In fact, they don't mind their entire, or rather a part of their identity being the company that they work in or the work that they do.
Yeah,
And I think that's fine. And I think a lot of people have been going very hard on them for a long period of time. And
hmm.
I think that's completely fine and should be
Yeah.
accepted as well.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, matlab to each their own. Yeah.
To everyone their own, correct? Yeah.
No, but to the surprise, मैंने आज ही I did a LinkedIn poll at the stage of the career you are at, right? So are you like
Hmm.
trying to figure out the balance? Like, do you subscribe to the idea of work-life balance? Because I was just trying to understand, right? Like how people make decisions. Like at what stage will they look for a more balanced approach versus at what stage they will prioritize the work. I think there was some Kunal's podcast I was listening to very recently where he was saying ki everything that you think of, right? Like let's say even your health, your wealth, your work, everything is a currency and you keep on constantly trading your currency for something else because there is no like balance and as Pete said, like there are like days you just need to work so hard that you won't even know where this week or even a month went, and then you can just maybe figure out the later on कि चलो थोड़ा chill करना है. So you
Yeah.
constantly have to keep trading those currencies in order
Yeah.
to be at the moment, right?
Yeah.
And so I think
But I
that's a
think, Jay, we need to tell the audience that it's okay to take breaks. Nobody's judging you if you're taking breaks, right? Work your heart out, like Pete said, right? When there are days you just work your heart out, but hey, your body needs break, your mind needs equal break, your soul needs self care. So I feel
true.
that's very important, like as a message for everybody.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But yeah, thanks a lot, Pete, for being here. And it was like I think at least for me, I had a great sort of time and learned quite a few new things also to sort of tinker on. And yeah, again, giving it to Krishna for the closing it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, Pete, as Jay mentioned, it was just amazing kind of having this conversation with you. What I liked was your perspective to things, right? The way you kind of are thinking about problem statements. I think that definitely helps when you're listening to somebody, because when you're giving very clear directives, it becomes easier for the end user to absorb what you're trying to say. So I think that way the session today has been really fruitful, and thank you again that you came on the podcast and you've shared your views honestly, right? There was no filtering. So I think that's what I liked about today's session, and thank you so much, Pete, for doing this with us.
Yeah,
yeah,
thank you, so much, folks, for having me. I had a great time as well.
yeah,
Great. And also thanking the audience for joining us. Stay tuned, we'll be back with the next episode soon. Logging off for today.
yeah.